Wants to monetize your back catalog. Now I'm going to see if I can make this work on a live stream here, and hopefully this is functioning. If you're in the comments below and you see this streaming, go ahead and post something in there. I want to see if this is working before we get going. I will record this presentation. It will, if it'll let me do that, it'll let me record it. That way, we'll have this for posterity sake. Anyway, I'm Justin hit with, I'm going to record a second screen. Okay, I'm Justin hit with ad briefings, copywriting tips. And one of the most powerful things that we can do for clients is we can help them transform business relationships into profits. Now, part of those relationships comes with the fact that you've written articles, reports, or you have some kind of subject matter expertise in your head, which represents a back catalog. So maybe you're a blogger and you've done a business blog over the last couple of years, and that business blog has produced content that you now want to turn into some kind of book, some kind of report, some kind of monetary value. Now I'm going to close some stuff here on the screen here. Again, this is a live broadcast, and I'm trying to see whether or not this is going to function and work the way I expected it to work. So I'd love to see your comments in below. I'm broadcasting over 2 channels. Now this is from my desk, which is a newsletter that I have for clients where we provide up-to-date answers, information, insights, and we basically take stuff from my desk literally and go through them in a kind of a high level approach so you can understand the value of what some of the things that we're working on here and ultimately the benefit that you can for your own business. So now if you're creating content, now whether you're creating content on index cards or you're recording a live video or you've done a podcast for years, or maybe you've done speeches in person at trade associations or local events, that content, you should, first off, you should always record everything, because that content has tremendous value to your organization. One thing you'll learn is I've got a bunch of clapped out old computers, so I'm going to have to close some screens here to see if we can't get this smooth and clean. And by the way, if you are going to put a comment below, I should see it. And again, this is about how do we monetize your back catalog. And so if you know something that can solve problems for your clients, and by the way, I'm Justin Hitt with From My Desk. I probably already said that. Um, if you know something that can help your clients, why not package it up in a way that can help them be more aware of what you have to offer? Package it up in such a way that can help them solve the small problems that you don't want to work on. So, for example, there's a lot of stuff that I can do for clients that I don't want to do for clients. My head looks so weird in this screen. And so how do you package that up? Maybe you write a book. So you maybe have a complex service and you want to make sure people understand that without them calling your office and talking to you every day because time is limited. And you want to write a book and you're going to use that book to help them get over the first hurdle, which prepares them to do business with you. Well, we very often can take your back catalog and turn it into that. We're going to talk about some of those strategies. So we have channels, and don't worry about looking at the card. I'm just going to hold it up to show you I'm actually reading from a card. We have channels, and those channels could be, for example, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Now, it turns out there's an unlimited number of channels. Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey. You can host it on your own website. And now, because there are so many channels, what it's done is it's fragmented the potential audience for what it is that you have to offer. So I'm constantly looking at how I can syndicate or get my content on multiple websites because the people who are looking for answers when it comes to creating and keeping profitable customers or building business relationships or reducing risk or improving their overall cash flow in a business, turns out they're everywhere and they're very confused because they're not finding good quality information. Now, you might have that situation too. You've written a blog, maybe you've done a podcast, maybe you have a YouTube channel, and you'll notice that some videos get like 3 or 4 views. It's really good content, but it's been posted for months and it's not gaining traction. Now, the platforms want you to buy advertising. So every one of these channels has the opportunity for you to buy advertising. And I agree, you should buy advertising, but buying advertising only works when you know who the prospect is, you know what motivates them to buy, and ultimately you can reach them on that platform. So a lot of people will say Facebook advertising is the greatest. Yeah, sure. If you're consumer approach, Facebook advertising is the greatest. But if you are a business to business company, maybe you're an architect, maybe you're a CPA, maybe you're a specialized lawyer that works on patents, maybe you're a consultant that helps companies with human resources issues. Well, yeah, those people are going to be on LinkedIn, but how do you know? And so we can test it with paid advertising, but we can again also test it with the ideas we talked about before, the podcast, the blog post, the vlog on a specific platform. Um, I'm looking at locals, for example, as building a little community over there. So you can build a community with an unlimited supply of options. Nobody's really addressing how to monetize that back catalog, because my assumption is that if you've got out there and you've shared content from your heart and you've sincerely looked to solve a problem and you've structured a presentation the right way, is that the presentation is probably not the worst thing. It may just be that it doesn't have the reach necessary. Now, the platform is going to tell you, oh, we've got millions of visitors and you should be advertising on our platform and it's very cheap to reach people. Again, these are broad consumer bases. The majority of the subject matter experts that I work with, they have very specific audiences. So if we're going to be on like 12 different platforms and we're going to have to find the audience in each platform because the audience is segmented, meaning your users are using many platforms. Like, for example, they might use Facebook to interact with friends and family, and they might use LinkedIn to interact with peers and associates. And they may not have any care in the world about what you're writing about if you post it on either of those channels, because when they look for your topic, they actually go out to the search engine and then they'll go directly to a platform or your own website. So do you see how difficult this can be? I've got a YouTube channel that gets 20, 30,000 visitors a month. Most of those visitors watch a tiny fraction of the video. And ultimately, the people who make it all the way through a video from start to end is like 1 to 5% of the visitors. Now, that 1 to 5% in monetizing my content are actually going to the description, clicking a link in the description, coming to my website and opting in, and then or reading show notes and then opting in, and that's a good prospect. But again, I get one from YouTube, I get one from Rumble, I get one from BitChute, I get one from when the social media platforms come in, LinkedIn, and it's not consistent. In order to make it more consistent, you need to, of course, know how to take those channels. And I gave you a preview, lead generate from the channels, have the proper tracking in place to know which channel is generating leads, and then ultimately make an offer. And that's kind of a short channel. It's 3 steps. It could be more steps if you want it to be, but it's prospect, present, and close. Just like Brian Tracy talked about years ago, prospect, present, close. And then I added to that resell or upsell. But ultimately, if we can keep our funnel at that point, because I know what you're saying. If you're going to create content on all these different channels and you're going to have a backlog of content, it seems like a lot of work, and it really is. The reason I'm trying this platform out here, and I think this is the platform's called Restream, and of course I'm trying to syndicate to YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time. And then I've got a secondary recording over here because I'll take that recording and I'll transcode it, and then I'll edit it, and then I'll publish it on another channel, a whole different channel. I might put little subheads across the bottom here that says that I'm Justin Hitt, business analyst. So you can see the difficulty of the task. So we don't want to have content unique on every channel, and we don't want a complex funnel for generating leads. We want to simply have content that is recyclable and content that can be syndicated either through automation, through a staff person, or through tools. Now, we're not going to talk about the specific tools because if you don't understand the overall concept, then you will not have a foundation for transforming your back catalog into new customers. And so The big idea, here's the big idea. You've already created the content, so don't make more till you know what works. Repeat what works, and then once you know what works, you can profit many times. So the concept is that we're going to take all the possible places that customers could be. Now, we're not going to post content everywhere. We're going to focus on one or two channels. So I focus on LinkedIn and YouTube because they have really good analytics tools. And I can tell that I'm getting a good lead flow from those two platforms. As soon as I figured out that I could synchronize my YouTube to Rumble, I tested the Rumble channel because I don't have to lift the finger to get the content over to Rumble. So somebody can upload the video to YouTube, complete the description, get the keywords in there, and it will synchronize over to Rumble, and then I will get traffic from there. Now I'm not changing all my encodes. I could go back and do that, but I can see in my analytics that I'm actually getting leads from Rumble and YouTube, where I'm only doing work at YouTube. So it really is about having the analytics in place. It's really about having your link coding correct. And then from that, we have a model for determining what types of content are producing results. And so when we look at when I sit down with a client to look at implementing this, we're really focusing on the 3 to 5 things that can be done to take old content and generate new leads, because we know that when we publish something today, it's only available to the folks that are looking today. But when we publish something tomorrow, it's only available to people looking at things tomorrow. And so, how do we take that content we previously published and make it available for today's audience and tomorrow's audience and next year's audience? So, first off, you got to have evergreen content. My first focus here is to get you some kind of nugget that you can say, wow, I've created a lot of content. Let's look at that content and see what content works. That right there pays for the time it took you to watch the video. What content do we already have that works? I've already mentioned derivative content. So there's derivative content in the sense of what other channels can we publish the same content, but there's also derivative content about what other formats can we publish content. I'm trying to do video more than anything else because I can transcribe the video, edit it into a special report, and then put graphics in it. And now I've got a special report. In a video in 20 minutes, I can have 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 good words after an edit. And so I can make a derivative work of my own materials and put it back out in the marketplace. And very often, I don't have to produce it. So I can sit here with you guys today and I can have the conversation, and I could, based on what I was told to go use this platform. I could go use the platform, have the conversation, tell you about the power of monetizing your back catalog, introduce you to ideas and concepts to help you start getting more revenue from content you've already created. Now, you still want to create new content, because what we're doing here is we're looking at the historical content, determining what worked, and then we're creating more of what works. So we're optimizing while we're organizing. So you're literally curating your own content. You're not going out to AI. You're not going out to copy what somebody else is doing. You're literally looking at what content generated leads and what content generated sales, which assumes that your analytics is set up correctly and that you're using link tracking. And we can talk about that specifically for your business. It really depends on what platform you're using, but it works with all platforms. But then ultimately, you're creating content as kind of like a magical salesperson running around out there on the internet, being available when someone in your target audience has got the interest or concern. So it's like, and this has been talked about a lot in marketing, they're a moving parade, and you're in that parade and you're going down the street, and you can only be in front of certain segments of that audience at a time. It depends on what street you're on. It depends on what what interesting thing you got going on, but it'll allow you to explore not only what's working by repeating best practices. And what I like to do is get 4 or 5 people in the same audience who serve the same audience to work together as a cohort, because you're going to learn faster, but you're going to start seeing that, hey, it really helps if we open up with a teaser. And what's that hook that we're going to open up with? And so, what are we going to use to get their attention? Now, what are we going to use to keep their attention? For example, I'm being sure that every couple of minutes I reiterate a benefit because I need you to know that there's a benefit for listening, other than some guy just rambling on about papers on his desk. And I'm not going to go through this whole stack, but here's some important things to understand: is we want to create content as a free contractor who we're going to send out on Google, and we're going to send it out on YouTube, and we're going to send it out on LinkedIn, and we're going to send it out within these channels. But all channels lead back to your website. They lead back to an initial consultation. They lead back to a lead in your contact manager or in your CRM system. So now, again, it doesn't matter what CRM system you're using. When somebody raises their hand, the topic in which they started. So again, this is why tracking is important. If they came to a video about monetizing their back end content or their back catalog of content, maybe you've written a number of books, and you want to sell more books while you're serving more customers, because that always happens. You write a book, you start getting some customers, you start getting busy. How do we automate that back catalog so that it's generating more leads, more customers, more choice? And again, we're able to do that through automation these days. You don't necessarily need somebody on the phone, spamming people on LinkedIn or trying to do direct messages. And then you definitely don't need to be doing it, because you should have billable work. We want to make sure that we're creating content that is doing the work for us. So content that generates qualified leads. I'm real careful to say, if you're a content creator, if you're a blogger, if you're a subject matter expert, if you've spoken to large groups or small groups, and explain it, you should be recording your presentations all the time. If you're even practicing a presentation like I'm doing today, using a new piece of software, even though things could go wrong, I should still be recording it. In fact, sometimes I'll have another camera up here just recording, because you can always take the recording and hand it to somebody else to do the editing. See, that's the magic of this. We have tools that will help us analyze data. So instead of using AI to tell you what to say, you speak from your subject matter expertise, and then we use AI to see how we can tailor that for a specific audience. We use AI to look at taking big presentations and making them small. We might use AI to digest a transcript in order to speed up how we write those descriptions, because again, the most important part of the description is for the audience to know they're in the right place, for the audience to know what value they're going to gain, and for the audience to be able to take a next step. And again, that next step could be your show notes. So if you weren't aware, and maybe you've had this frustration, um, for every video you produce, you'll have an audio track, you'll have show notes, you'll have an outline, you'll have social media posts, you'll have descriptions. So if you've ever ran into that bottleneck that it's hard enough to create content, then you definitely want to benefit from recycling that content and monetizing your back catalog. Now, content stops working after the algorithm changes. Have you ever had that? You've got great content out there, you're getting search traffic, and then all of a sudden you're not getting anything. There's no search traffic because, again, the content's aged out in some search engines. And other search engines, there may be new content that's competing with you. That's why generating leads is so important. When you generate those leads, you can always invite back these familiar people and then make offers to the familiar people. One of the things that I think has been a mistake that a lot of folks make when they do podcasts and they do content is they try to sell something that is momentary. Now, here's what I mean by that. I'm selling you on ideas that are forever. So I'm going to sell you on the idea that if you've already created content, that you can do something to transform that content into new customers. Okay? You're going to do that through creating leads. And by generating leads, you can get an idea of what types of content are going to create customers. This is critical. This is critical. I'm selling you on an idea that's evergreen. In 50 years, that's still going to be a valuable, useful piece of information. Yet a lot of people today don't know that you first target people, offer them something of value. They raise their hand from that, then you put them on a list, and then you make an offer to that list. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are pitching in their presentation. You'll notice I don't have any sponsorships. If I have a sponsorship, it's going to be a separate video. It's going to be specific to the sponsorship, because this video I want to get maximum life out of. And so I'm going to give you tip after tip and situation and ways of looking at your your content differently. I'm going to give you tools that are going to help you get to the next level. Now, if we're talking about mistakes, one of the mistakes I see a lot of people make when they want to monetize their back content is they have not been using some kind of analytics tool. Now, I said Google Analytics because that's what we use, but you could be using Adobe. You could be using a lot of different analytics tools. The key thing you want to make sure your analytics tools does is show you the source of the lead, what medium they did it. Now, source can be the actual content that brought somebody forward, and so it could be like article one published on YouTube, YouTube being the medium, and so you've published it as a video, and then article one on LinkedIn as an article. Now, I don't recommend you building other people's platforms. I think we should have our derivative works out there in front of the audiences as a taste, as a tease, but we don't want to be publishing and building a next YouTube or building the next Rumble or building the next LinkedIn, because those platforms have figured out how to monetize your content already. And they do that by promising you that your content's going to reach people that may not even be on that platform. So we really want to be aware of that. Another mistake that folks make is they don't approach this with a systematic way. So you've been creating content for years. Very often you're creating content based on a whim, based on an idea. Maybe you haven't sat down and wrote index cards that outline the content. Maybe you're just winging it. And winging it's okay in some cases if you've got the right test case in place. But I would prefer you to work from knowledge or to work from experience than to work from just making stuff up. Now, the reason why you want to monetize your back content is because once you have a system in place to develop content and to develop that back end, you can now monetize it in passive ways. So I'm not talking about advertisements. I'm not talking about selling sponsorships. I'm not talking about pitching, affiliate products or something. What I'm talking about is developing your content in such a way that it makes better derivative work. So a series of articles, 3 to 5 articles, can become a special report. Several special reports can become a course. Several courses can become a workshop or a training program that you deliver on site. You see, we're building content as building blocks. So I have a program called Article Marketing Secrets that talks about the article as being the foundation of any type of content marketing. So, for example, if you wrote an article or even had an outline for an article, maybe it's going to be 800 to 1500 words, and that's not because of search engine optimization. That's not because of anything other than 800 to 1500 words is a pretty good. Um, the attention someone needs to read through that whole article demonstrates they're interested in the topic. That's why it's that many words. But if you have 800 words and you've published it as an article, you can always come back and now do a presentation around that article and then put the presentation and the article together to make a more valuable piece of content down the line. Or maybe put 2 articles together and you do a presentation about it. So I've had situations where I've taken index cards and I've written down and just give you an idea of what we're working with here. The first index card is the big idea. The next business card, index card, is the workflow. Then we've got some of the big problems we want to overcome, and then we've got an outline of the program, kind of what I'm going down through right now. And then at the end of the outline, it's got an offer. That's the last card right there, an offer. Now, I will be making an offer to you at the end of this program, but it's more about getting additional support in doing this, because one of the things that's going to come up is that you didn't have time to create the content in the first place. And that's why you winged it. That's why you just got on and put the camera, you just held the camera in front of you. Got to find my camera. You just held the camera in front of you and said, "Hi, everybody. I'm so-and-so, and we're going to talk about such." Okay. I understand the time constraints, and you will have to invest in having someone help you from an administrative standpoint. But I can create this video, transcribe it, chop it up, have so many things done, and I only need to, I literally created the content at the speed of my voice. Now, sometimes I speak really fast, so maybe there's pauses in it, but ultimately, the end product will not have all that extra stuff in it. Remember earlier when I'm trying to figure out the software and I'm closing windows because things look kind of choppy and slow, all that can be removed. Now, you do want to reach, so you got this list of leads. You do want to keep putting yourself in front of those leads in a format that is as realistic as possible as to what they might expect when they work with you. So, for example, if I'm on a web conference call with you and we're consulting over going over your business and we're looking at ways to monetize your content and ways to make derivative works, ways to set up licensing agreements, ways to set up book proposals so that you can go with the mainstream publishers, ways to set up books for self-publishing, ways to get feedback from the leads on your list so that you can focus your attention on topic areas that are profitable to your business. If we're doing that, we're just going to be on the phone like this. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I got a head thing. I got my head thing on. And if you guys know a little bit about me, after this video, I'm going to go feed some goats. And then I got a closing this afternoon. Yeah, I'm a busy guy. And so I'm going to show up respectfully. I took a shower yesterday, maybe last week. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to show up as I am in my content so that you aren't shocked when you see me in work mode. Now, if I was on site with a client, I'd probably be in a suit and tie. But when I'm gardening, I'm wearing a gardening smock and some loose pants and make sure everything's covered up so I don't get sunburned. So again, how you show up matters, but the context of your arrival is even more important. And that context of arrival must be critical to the bottom line of the viewer. Because even in this live presentation, I've seen people come on and come off. A lot of folks are looking for entertainment on these platforms. And if you're out there trying to connect, then you're probably going to get 300, 200, whatever viewers on a video. But if you had 200 people in a room, that would be awesome. We're not all going to be 20,000 views on a single video, 30, 40,000 people a month. It takes time to do that. But you can take this video, for example. I'm basically giving you a high level overview of a program that I'm developing. And it's a service that I've provided to clients called Monetize Your Back Catalog, how we help clients create thousands of dollars in passive income through how they manage their content. And I'm going to walk through the model because look, it's on my outline. I'm going to walk through the model here in a second. Because a lot of times we create content under duress and we create it for an audience we're not really sure about. And then as we progress, we either get in the treadmill. I got one channel that I've stopped publishing content and the traffic's dropped and I really feel compelled to start publishing content again, but that channel's not breaking even. That channel's not serving the business purpose. And so you want to stay away from that content trap. So these channels, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, they figured out how to monetize your content. And so they're going to compel you to create more because it's not costing them anything to create the content. But in reality, if I spend an hour and a half doing a presentation, it costs me an hour and a half of my life that I could be serving clients. I could be, feeding goats. I could be gardening. I could be writing another book. I could be doing something that's more valuable. So the first thing we're going to do is, and this is a six, let's see, it's like 7, 8, 9, 10 steps. The last step's repeat, by the way, because this is a repeatable process. But first thing you're going to do is you're going to catalog your content. You need to know where the content exists. Unfortunately, I have, so I found this today. Okay. This is a mobile recording. You put it on with a little microphone. I usually use it as a backup recording for the sound. It has podcasts on it from 2 years ago. That's content I created and I never published. So very often when we start with the inventory, we can find a lot of backlog content that we can just clean up a little bit, put back out there on the channels. It's a pocket podcast episode. And what do I mean by that? Well, it means if you're doing a podcast every week and you're going to take 2 weeks of vacation, you've got pre-recorded podcasts to fill in that slot, but your lead generation system keeps functioning even when you're not available to do it because you did the work once, use it many times. but it doesn't do you any good if you did the work and you can't find the damn video, or it doesn't get edited or whatever. I got a backlog of like a year's worth of content that if I didn't create the content for specific inquiries or for specific clients, that content would have never seen the light of day. So again, you want to move up how quickly the right people can see the content, and then ultimately on the back end be recycling it and editing it and transcoding it and turning it into different medias, different things. And that can be done with an agency. Number two is you want to inventory your media channels. You don't have to be on every channel, but you have to be somewhere, or you probably already are somewhere. And how can we better utilize those channels? So you'll see on Facebook, I've got like 0 followers, maybe 5 followers for the JWH Consolidated, which is my marketing agency. And where on LinkedIn, it's a few hundred. I don't know how many on LinkedIn, but it's not the same people on each channel. So when we create content, we cannot guarantee that every person is going to see it on every channel. So why not just reuse it in the future? Now, again, let's say I'm 31 minutes into this one. Let's say we have a couple 5-minute chunks that are really good content. Um, I'm going to say, because when you're inventorying your channels, short content works on YouTube. So I might say, oh, well, here's a minute I can use as a short on YouTube, and then I'm going to link to the long form video, because someone who watches the short one and then goes to the long form one and watches the long form one and then contacts me, that's a better prospect than somebody who just contacted me from a Google search. Um, but again, these each of these channels, Amazon, for example, is a search engine. If you have a book on Amazon and somebody's searching for that topic, they'll find it on Amazon and hold a higher level of authority or credibility to that book than they would if they searched and found it on a search engine. And so we have to know these channels' unique benefits and values. Number three, we want to identify the pipeline of opportunities. So first off, you have to have an audience and you have to have an offer. Now, for most of you, if you're a consultant, subject matter expert, an engineer, if you're working for someone else, that offer could be to hire you as an employee or hire you as a 1099 contractor, hire you corp to corp. At a minimum, it would be an initial consultation. Okay. So somebody would say, hey, I liked his video about monetizing my back catalog. I'd like to learn some more. And then you would go to a contact page at www.justinhit.com/contact. And then you would just say, hey, I'd like to learn more about monetizing my back catalog. I've got a bunch of videos. I've got a bunch of audio. I've got a bunch of print presentations. I've got books with rights to them. I've got special reports I wrote on commission that I like to recycle. And I've got a lot of experience doing that because I've got 22,000 notes in my note taking application, of which many of those notes are articles, reports, uh, synopses, research papers, uh, transcripts from podcasts. And again, that gives me a library of materials. So that's why number one, we're inventorying the materials. Number two, we're inventorying the channels, because where do we want to use those materials? Where could we use those materials? Number three, we're identifying the pipeline. It's basically, what are we going to offer to this audience? And now, again, we're assuming you got an audience. Now, finally, number four is we're going to catalog what works. And I've mentioned we're going to catalog what works by understanding what's generating leads and what's making sales. Now, this is not a technical call. We're not going to go over the technical nature of Google Analytics or UTM tracking or using redirects at your local site to measure uh, interest in offers or doing A/B split testing. We're not going to mention the technical nature of having a split test when you email market by testing subject headlines or opening sentences, opening paragraphs. We're not going to talk about the importance of using pixels. So many of these platforms have pixels, so we can tell someone went from Facebook to your website, and then we can retarget those individuals. I'm just saying, number four is you want to catalog what works, because once we find something that works, now every dollar of our marketing, every dollar of our investment in time is multiplied tremendously because we have some analytical measure of value for that particular activity. And in the beginning, it might not be a whole lot. You might just be able to see the referrals from different websites. But again, if we're coding this the right way and we're establishing, a kind of a model for understanding what we're doing, and we're consistent about it, then number 5, we can repeat what works. So I know for a fact that if I get a video in front of somebody who has pain, somebody who's suffering, that I can help them solve the problem, then I'm guaranteed to get a client. So in this case, I'm talking to people who are content creators that are getting abused by YouTube, getting abused by Google with the promise that the more content you create, the more money you'll make. And I'm saying that you don't have to create more content. You can actually recycle the content you have while tuning your message, while getting better connected with a more valuable audience so that you can monetize your back catalog. If you're a speaker, if you're a coach, if you're a subject matter expert, meaning you have credentialed expertise in a marketplace, you might not even need to post on YouTube. You could actually get interviewed by media and have them do all the production work. See, a lot of you folks are saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to edit videos. I don't want to edit transcripts. I don't want to write a book. And I agree, it takes a lot of work. But again, what if you were a guest on someone else's podcast? And they're doing all the video and they're doing all the recording and they're doing all the syndication. They're doing all the promotion. Now, again, you want to promote. If you're a guest on someone's podcast, you want to promote the hell out of that podcast so that you get a good show up so that other people will want to invite you to their podcast. Same thing with news media. I've worked with individuals who will get on a daily show, morning show, talked about social media marketing, and they had barely anybody watching, but they were able to get the professional clips from that and syndicate those. And syndication means you're going to publish it on a couple channels and syndicate those, which built credibility, which linked back to their website rather than the news channel. And so again, we want to repeat what works, and that means auditing your analytics because analytics are going to break. It means packaging things up into campaigns. So I'm not presenting monetizing your back catalog because I woke up this morning and I was like, this might be a cool topic. No. April 24th, 2024, I wrote an outline. And since then, I've developed some materials and I've got an internal document on optimizing your YouTube channel. Um, and I'm building from a foundation of knowledge, translating that knowledge into tools, and giving you the 10 steps that you're going to need to monetize your back catalog. Number 6, define an offer or opportunity. Now, I've said this in a previous recording I did today. I'm not about $19 ebooks. Okay, this is not about ebooks. This is not about affiliate commissions. This is not about sponsorship opportunities. This is not about selling advertisements on your content. Because again, as a professional who's invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in understanding the skills that you have. So if you're an architect, you went to architect school, and architect school is not going to tell you how to get clients. But if you're using this to get clients by talking about different types of architect and its appropriateness for different business environments, you're going to get followers. And then a small percentage of those followers will be interested in hiring an architect. And you've been able to, through the presentation, demonstrate that you're a good architect and ultimately, at least that you know what you're talking about. But we need to have at least $1,000 offer. So I want to have, because again, I'm about $1 million ideas. I didn't create $1 billion for my clients over the last 20 years by chasing $20 ebooks. So we need to have an offer with $1,000 customer lifetime value. So what's great about this is monetizing your content is about high ticket sales. It's not about, residual passive income created by. Now you could get monetized on YouTube. That can happen. You could get, maybe you wrote an ebook or you wrote a course and maybe you're going to sell those and that's kind of automated. But again, there's got to be some kind of consulting service. There's got to be some kind of integration, some kind of installation. There's got to be some kind of build. So let's say you're a general contractor and you build ecologically friendly homes. You build straw built houses, natural building. You're going to have like a $900 course where people can come out and learn how to do these things. Or you're going to have a service where you build something for the client. Because again, we need that $1,000 customer lifetime value in order to get things growing fast, because this method does require you, if you want it to be passive, does require you to hire staff to edit the videos. Editing videos is the least important, the least thing. Well, bookkeeping is probably the least exciting thing for me, but if I'm transcoding a video, it could take a couple of hours. And then I've got to edit the video, which could, for every minute of video, could take 15, 20 minutes. Ultimately, I could be creating a new piece of video. And so if we don't have that $1,000 customer lifetime value, you won't generate enough money to pay for the very talented people out there. By the way, there are folks that just love editing videos. There's even AI tools that'll take your video, break it up into little segments, and then you have somebody who's at an administrative assistant level just kind of tune the layout. Sometimes things aren't just, maybe they're not perfectly in the middle of the screen. Um, there's Adobe tools. There's all kinds of tools out there. I do know how to use some of these tools, but it's much better just to hand a disk drive. I just hand a disk drive to somebody, and they pull. This is 4 terabytes, which could be, with high resolution video, could only be like 5, 6 hours of video, and then they just do it. It's done. But you can't do that if you've got $1 ideas. You got to have $1 million ideas, which means you're going to have about $1,000 customer lifetime value. And over the year, you're going to get about 100 to 1,000 customers. Now, again, you may not be able to handle 1,000 customers as a solopreneur, as a content creator, as a consultant, as a small marketing agency, but it's the kind of problem that you really can benefit from, because you can basically increase your prices in order to moderate the number of people interested in doing business with you. And then, of course, using this model of monetizing your back catalog, maybe you've got 5 podcasts. You're having trouble staying in frame here. Maybe you've got 5 podcasts about a similar topic, and you can put those podcasts in an outline, flesh it out with a little bit of text, and now you offer a course for someone to do it themselves. So maybe they can't hire you because you're so busy. Maybe you've got, instead of $1,000 customer lifetime value, you've got a $10,000 customer lifetime value. And now this is the net value of a customer over a 12-month period, or over the typical life of them doing business with you. I like to say I like to earn at least $1,000 per client, and that means I'm delivering 10,000 to $1 million in value to them. But again, this is not about you loading yourself up with more work, because the reason you haven't already monetized your back catalog is because you're busy, and that's fair. Hopefully, you're busy with billable work. This system is designed to get you billable work. But if you're not busy with billable work, then you're probably busy editing the content, promoting the content. You're not a magazine. Now, I have a marketing agency that runs the publishing of my newsletters, and even then, it's still not consistent the way it needs to be. It works, but it's not consistent, because it's just, there can be a lot to do. Every time there's a new channel coming out, you got to go back through your backlit catalog and then start publishing key stuff on that new channel to test the channel, and have links back to your website to generate leads, and then everything's got to be coded correctly. So I don't want to say this to discourage you, but again, high ticket sales, they got to hire you for $10,000. They got to hire you for $5,000. They got to, over the lifetime of doing business with you, they might start at a $100 consultation or a $200 consultation, but over the lifetime of doing business with you, they are going to be $1,000 plus value. That's net, by the way. Let's look at the next one here. Number 7, because we've packaged things in marketing campaigns, and a marketing campaign has a specific audience, has a specific offer, it has 3 to 5 steps that are going to drive people to that offer. Because we're executing in campaigns now, we can focus our time on developing offers, packaging campaigns, and executing on campaigns. And number 7 is really interesting. So a lot of these things, by the way, can be outsourced. Most of these steps can be outsourced once you get the initial pass through. But this one's very interesting, because I talked about paid advertising. These platforms want you to pay for advertising, because they want you to publish content on there and then pay for advertising to promote your content on their platform. And then the key is well, what if we promote lead generation? And now that you've got a campaign going, and now you're generating more leads, you're amplifying the value of your back end, which is the offers you've been creating. And now you can recycle the content you created before as internal emails or internal postal mails. If you're making $1,000 per customer, you can send them letters. You can do a prospect newsletter. But where do you get the content for the prospect newsletter? You get it from your back catalog, right? You see how this works, guys? Now, again, we can go into more detail and nuances about how we make this happen in your organization. But again, now we just execute marketing campaigns, and we don't even have to execute them. We can get a marketing So we can get a marketing coordinator to just sit there and they just run campaigns. You can hire somebody for specific platforms. Maybe you find out LinkedIn's working really good for you. You hire somebody whose only job in life is great content for LinkedIn. And since you have the content library, they go in that library and they just keep pulling stuff out, pulling stuff out, pulling stuff out. Maybe you hire a couple writers to finish a book. It can be hard to finish a book. You hire a couple writers to help you finish the book. Now you put the book on Amazon. Now you're generating not only credentials and credibility, but you're generating more leads. Number 8, we want to measure and repeat what works. Again, this is all about measurement. If you're not generating leads consistently, high quality leads consistently from your back catalog, then we need to focus on that first because it is possible your content to be shit. Okay. I see content of mine from years ago. And again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I originally started out by, so a client would ask a question and I recorded on one of these little, not on a phone like this 20 years ago, but on like a little cassette tape recorder. And then I would mail them the cassette tape. Now, I didn't know to keep a copy of the cassette tape, but I learned later with a digital cassette recorder that I could send them a digital file over email. And then later, start publishing a podcast. And then later, I did the video Q&As. And then sometimes I'll do workshops with a bunch of people on a call. Sometimes I'll do a training presentation with 100 people on the call. The thing of it is, though, we need to be able to measure because it's the profit per sale that really keeps this engine going. I have made the mistake in the past where I'm just gangbusters with 80% billable. If you're an independent consultant and you've got 80% billable, it's happy days. I have like 7 assistants running around. I have a couple project managers. I have a bunch of assistants doing tweets and social media and stuff like that. And then I'm like, man, I got this client, and I was like 5 years into this client, and I didn't. It's not a camping client. I'm moving between their organization, creating successes, creating results, and they keep inviting me to new projects. And I'm thinking, this is a Fortune 100. I'm going to hang out with them for a little bit. Maybe I can dial back on my content. And actually, they were a little concerned about the amount of content I was publishing, and they were concerned about the topics I was covering, and they were concerned that I was, freelancing on the side. Now, what I was doing is I was maintaining my expertise in the marketplace, presenting my credentials, and ultimately positioning myself as an expert. But over time, that relationship was wonderful. But because I didn't have the measures in place, I focused. So let me explain. So the Fortune 100 client was so profitable that I cut back everything else, but then the Fortune 100 client disappeared. So about 10 years into that job, the economy got sucky. This was after COVID. I got laid off. And so, by the way, if you're a subject matter expert and you're not creating content, you're going to get screwed because a lot of times you can create the content and send emails and nobody ever sees it in the public. But that library, again, you can resurrect that library and put it out public once your situation changes. Maybe you've gone from full-time employee to independent consultant. Maybe you've gone from independent consultant to setting up a small agency and now you're promoting for multiple consultants. It just really depends. But again, without those measuring, you're not going to know the best cost per lead. You're not going to know where you can build marketing references that you can then incorporate in future campaigns. You're going to miss out on a lot of details. Number 9, we want to document best practices. Now, this is why I like to get together 5 to 7 individuals who are trying to reach the same audience. Now, you might be saying, why would we get a bunch of competitors together who are all trying to reach the same audience? And why would we interact with each other to document best practices? Well, the thing of it is there that you get, this is a big world today. You get 5 to 10, 5 to 7. I think 7 works best, but let's say 5. Let's say we got 5 independent consultants in the same room, non-competing services, but same audience. So they're all marketing high income and affluent families. Okay, could be a CPA, a lawyer, a bookkeeper. It could be a real estate planner, and then someone who has got household management. Okay, and you're targeting people with homes of a value of $250,000 or more. Liquid net, we got a customer base, but you're not competing with each other. Well, it also means you're not all reaching the same people. And so if each of you, each of the 5 have 1,000 followers among all their channels, you have a potential audience of 50,000 people. Now, there will be overlap. It's okay. But ultimately, you're going to know, okay, well, affluent homeowners with former military experience are going to live in this type of area versus this type of area. That's useful. If you've got new families, high income, one person staying at home, that's something new to learn. So we want to, again, document those best practices, build out style guides. So all five of these people might be talking together on the back end, and they might be designing things, building templates or whatever, but each of them are going to have their own unique style. What's powerful is now the cross promotion where you can pair up and do interviews. So maybe somebody built a channel of 3 to 5,000 people and somebody else has a channel of 100 because you're cooperating. It's called cooperative marketing. You can get on each other's channels and do interviews and coach each other and bring out a more complete solution to that audience. Now, you could go further and build your own network. I have sinus issues when I start talking for too long, so we're going to wrap this up soon. But again, we want to keep it simple, but we want to basically bring audiences together because once we're generating leads, now again, you're not going to appeal to everybody in your audience, but once we're generating leads, those leads have value for you to create more content of higher value with other people and also to reach other audiences by exchanging that high value content. So the key here is we want to seek to better your best. We want to start you where you are today, and we want to only create new content that is profitable. What I'm finding for me, it could be different for you. What I'm finding for me is that if I go ahead and get better at producing the long form content. So if I was in a live room and I'm moving around, my nose doesn't get stuffed up. I could be, moving around. I could be working with the audience. That's probably the best content for me. I don't really want to travel as much as I was traveling before, doing that kind of thing. But if I'm doing a 90-minute presentation, like after this, we'll hang around to answer some questions. Um, but I am testing software, so I don't see any chats coming in. But if I come in and do a presentation from cards and I lay out the problem, I lay out some of the ways people try to solve the problem in the past, some of the frustrations folks have, and then I gave you, like in this case, a 10-step approach. And number 10 is repeat. We're going to keep repeating what works. Uh, then you can go off and see it for yourself. And then some of you will come forward and say, well, I'd like some help. Okay. Isn't that fair? I gave you the best of what I got for 52 minutes. And ultimately, I'm going to offer you a way that you can get some more help because, again, it is 10 steps or 9 steps. It's 9 steps. But if you want to keep repeating it, it can't be the primary thing that you're doing because that does happen to a lot of content creators. They get on that content treadmill where they got to keep producing content to get views because they haven't got any value out of the views they already got. They have a back catalog of content that they've created over the years that maybe they'd like to get a little bit more value out of. The underlying bit, though, is what I'm going to offer to you is basically a we're gonna basically transform your back catalog into a library of materials, and then we're going to apply these 9 steps to it so that you can have consistent lead flow, consistent sales. So we're getting more consulting engagements. We're selling more large, high ticket packages. We're ultimately putting more butts in seats if you're doing events because you're going to have this consistent flow based on all of your historic content. So, for example, we might go through every description in a certain topic area and put a specific call to action that's coded and ready to test that goes to a modern offer rather than that old offer you made years ago. Because again, sometimes you stop delivering certain products. Sometimes you refined your skills or refined your offer. If you're looking for an employment opportunity, very often we want to credentialize yourself with the content rather than promote, generate leads, because the credentials inside the ecosystem of your career may take you further. So there's one client that basically wrote a special report, sent it out to people in a trade association, and ended up getting trade association speaking presentations. So they were a guest on the trade association's podcast. And then through that, they got a lot more employment offers. They got CEO level offers. Not See, companies are going to hire the person who can present, the person who can communicate, the person who can deliver consistently. But they don't. they're not looking for those people. They'll see them somewhere and they'll be like, "Oh, that idea is really good. Let's hire that person to help us solve a problem." And so again, how you structure your presentation matters, and that's why I'm making you an offer right now. But very often, what we end up doing is product refreshes. We start compiling materials. We'll get in there and help organize the materials and put them in a document retention system. And then none of these systems are really complex. They're just basically, if you think, oh, I did a podcast years ago about content marketing, let's republish that along with this new material. It just happens for you. It doesn't. It's not a. It's not a big endeavor. And sometimes, for example, when we interview clients, we can create content faster than we can recover content. And so we might take all the old mentions of content marketing, for example, and point it to the new program that has a price on it versus creating a new piece of content or a new podcast episode. And I know a lot of folks are under the gun when it comes to what's the next topic we're going to cover. And that's why, again, these 9 steps is about cataloging. You're going to end up with an editorial calendar. You're going to end up with editorial topics. You're going to end up with guidelines on how to write. And eventually, a team of writers can just produce your materials, and they're going to produce your materials with your approval. They're not just going to publish stuff. But like I said here, this 56 minutes of video, when you see it, it may not be 56 minutes. Somebody might edit it out. They might take chunks of that and they might drive it to an opt-in page, and then the 56 minutes might be behind an opt-in page. But meanwhile, there might be 15-minute chunks in the next 6 podcast episodes. It's a concept that you really need to talk about if you've got more than 100 pieces of backlog content. So if you've written several books, you've written several articles, you've done a podcast, you've done interviews, you've done presentations, and you have them recorded somewhere. It doesn't matter what the quality of the recording is, because again, we can recycle into different medium. If you've got 2 or more channels, so you got a YouTube channel, a LinkedIn profile, maybe you're on some other networking site. We typically, if you've got that $1,000 customer lifetime value, and we can help you develop that, but we typically can add $100,000 to $200,000 to your bottom line. Now, again, that's not a claim that you specifically will, because again, I qualify everybody who works with me. But if you visit me at www.justinhit.com, go to the contact page and say you're interested in monetizing your back catalog, we're going to get into a paid consultation. In that consultation, we're going to audit your environment and see whether or not you're not already doing some of these steps. And if you are, how can we do them better? And then ultimately we can develop that opportunity, because again, $1,000 minimum lifetime value. Now, in some cases, you might have a $30,000 customer lifetime value, and then it's a no-brainer. All we got to do is get you one more customer, and you're going to more than pay for any investment you're going to have with us. Maybe you don't want to manage a team, and you're better with me managing your editors or managing your copywriters, or maybe a combination thereof. We've done that before, because a lot of times it's just a little tweak, applying the system to your existing staff or applying the system to maybe some folks that you're hiring direct in order to get those outcomes. Because again, if you got $1,000 customer lifetime value and you get 10 new customers this year or 10 new clients this year, that's $10,000 of net. Add it to your bottom line with content you've already created. Now, I also like, because we're going to interview you, and I've got channels I can interview you on if you fit certain qualifications. Um, I like to, let's produce a residual. Let's produce content that sets up with what works well for you already. Because once we discover what works well, I'd rather just repeat what works well instead of coming up with the next new thing. See, there's this big problem with people chasing shiny objects, and that really gets them in a lot of trouble. Now, the last requirements of working with me is you need to be using WordPress. WordPress. You need to be using Google Analytics, and you need to be willing to be credentialized. Okay, because a lot of people don't like that, but I want to make you a recognized expert in your industry. Now, just for scheduling your consultation, I'm going to give you a copy of my book, Establish Instant Credibility, which is kind of the result of monetizing your back catalog, because we're going to start gathering up case studies and stories and customer success events, and getting more people on live calls with you. But if you don't like live calls, we can do like what I'm doing, pre-recorded, or or we're live streaming it right now and there's no interruptions. There's nobody pinging and chatting. But again, we're going to record everything because those recordings are the foundation of doing the work once and profiting from it many times. So my real offer to you is to visit www.justinhit.com/contact. If you have general questions about the presentation, you can put them in the comments below, or you can go to www.justinhit.com, go to the contact page and ask your questions. If you'd like to work with me, then just say you want to monetize your back catalog, and I'll send you details about the consultation. A paid consultation is $397, and I will apply if you decide to work with me as an agency, because my agency can do this work for you. Then that $397 will be applied to whatever arrangement we come up with that's built within the 9 steps here. Look at that. There's even something on the back of here too. Look at that. But the 9 steps are the key. Catalog your materials, determine what works and what doesn't work, make sure your measuring's going good. Um, repeat what works, build up catalogs of best practices, structure it so it functions without you babysitting it every day. And then ultimately you can be adaptive next time somebody gets Google slapped, or next time your content gets banned, or your social media account gets shut down. Well, I sure hope this recording worked the way we expected it to. And I'm thankful for the few people that did come on the live call. Again, link below. I'm still looking for streaming software. So again, as an episode of From My Desk, I would like to be able to do this on a weekly basis with my mastermind and members of the From My Desk newsletter. But thank you for being here. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with a bunch of different newsletters, but this is the From My Desk presentation, which hopefully I get all sorted out as a live event. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.